Hey there, creepy peeps. Welcome to my channel. If you are new here, welcome back. If you are returning, let's talk about my favorite decade of horror. Well, one of them. So as you would have seen from the title, I'm going to be talking about my top 10 favorite 90s horror movies. But no, not really. I'm actually going to be telling you my top 11 technically, because if you've been on this channel for even a little while, you already know what my number one pick is gonna be. And if you're newer and you don't know what number one is gonna be yet, well then you just get an extra movie for me to talk about, that's all. So starting at number 11, this is really weird, is Serial Mom. This movie follows a sweet mother who finds herself participating in homicidal activities when she sees the occasion call for it. Kathleen Turner is a literal queen in this movie. She's the perfect housewife who just happens to murder people for doing things that annoy her, like not wearing your seatbelt in the car, not recycling, chewing gum. It's basically what we all want to do, which is murder people for doing the little things that just annoy the crap out of us, and John Waters captures that perfectly in this movie. I have super fond memories of watching this movie with like my core group of friends in high school, and I just remember us thinking this movie was the funniest shit that ever existed. So it's got a little spot in my heart for Serial Mom. I love Serial Mom. Number 10 on my list is Tremels, in which natives of a small isolated town must defend themselves against strange underground creatures which are killing them one by one. Basically, this movie is like expert level on a game of the floor is lava, and I love it. The characters are fun, the monsters are cool, and create quite the conflict for the townspeople trying to get the hell out of Dodge and get away safely from the monsters. And there's just enough humor in there, and it's a little bit campy, a little bit cheesy, but the best part about that is when you can tell that the actors are aware that it's a little bit cheesy and they're just into it themselves, and they're not, you know, they're not half-assing it, and it just makes the movie more enjoyable to watch. Number 9 for me is The Frighters, which follows a man that discovers he can see and talk to the dead after the tragic death of his wife. When a demonic spirit appears, he may be the only one who can stop it from killing the living and the dead. So this is one of those movies that's on my yearly rotation of films that I watch every single October. It doesn't have anything to do with Halloween per se, like within the movie, but for whatever reason, it just gives me like the Halloween feels. And I think that's due in part to like the cutesy creepiness of the movie. Like, to me, that just screams Halloween. I will admit the CGI has not aged well, like at all. To me, that's just kind of like the charm of the movie. The main cast, of course, is amazing, and there are some fun cameos throughout, including Arlie Ermy and the love of my life, John Astin. So number 8 on my list is In the Mouth of Madness, which follows an insurance investigator looking into the disappearance of a horror writer, and he finds out the impact the writer has on his fans is more than inspirational. So I talked about this movie already in my Shudder Hidden Gems video, which I'll link up here somewhere if you haven't seen it. So I won't talk too long about this one because I already have. But it's a hell of a ride, I'll tell you that. Start to finish, through all the twists and turns, this movie stays exciting, and Sam Neill gives just an amazing performance. Number 7 on my top 10 list is Jacob's Ladder, which follows a Vietnam War veteran who is mourning his dead child, attempting to uncover his past, and suffering from a severe case of dissociation. This one easily found its way into my top 10 list after my first viewing of the movie, which actually wasn't even that long ago. Lucky for me, I didn't know the twist ending beforehand, and I was just so invested in the story and in Jacob as a character that I just let the movie take me for a ride, and that twist hit me like a freight train. It's just one of those movies that I wish I had like a neuralizer or something where I could just like wipe my memory of just that movie and rewatch it for the first time over and over again. Number 6 on my list is Dead Alive, in which a young man's mother is bitten by a Sumatran rat monkey, gets sick, dies, comes back to life, and starts killing and eating her friends and neighbors. Do I need to explain this one? Really? It's fun, it's funny, it's extremely bloody and gory, and the practical effects that are used are imaginative and very cool. The fact that the same man directed this movie and the Lord of the Rings trilogy just, it tickles me fucking pink. I don't know, man. Like, I just love that. I love that fact. The characters are super endearing, which is really important for me. The plot is a wild ride, and it's just an enjoyable fucking movie to watch. Moving into the top half here, number 5 on my list is The Blair Witch Project, which follows 3 students who head off into the woods in Maryland to make a documentary about a local witch legend. To me, this movie is the perfect example of less is more. And I know some people don't like that you don't ever see the Blair Witch in this movie, but I love that fact because I can remember watching this movie for the first time and it just seeming so real. Like, the premise of the movie is that these students went out to make this film and this was all that was left, was the footage. When you're watching this for the first time and maybe a little bit younger, obviously did not see this right when it came out, really got me. And honestly, I'll never know for sure, but I feel like if I saw whatever they would have come up with how the Blair Witch would have looked like, would have just ruined the movie for me, because nothing that they could come up with is scarier than what I have in my head. That ending too always gets me. Like, I'm literally getting goosebumps just thinking about it. It still gets me to this day. This movie is just simplicity at its finest. Kelsapree's number 4 on my list is actually Scream 2. On my favorites shelf back here, if you remember from my tour of my horror shelf, I'll link up here somewhere. I just keep all of the Scream movies, all 4 of them, together for simplicity, but I thought for the sake of this video I would go ahead and challenge myself and actually try and rank Scream 2 among the other 90s movies to like see where I would put it. And this is where it ended up. So this movie takes place 2 years after the events of the first Scream, when someone in a ghost face costume starts killing people on Sydney's college campus. The beauty of the Scream movies, especially the sequels, is the fact that they are so self-reflexive. So when we should start getting annoyed at the slasher sequel and trilogy tropes and cliches, the whole idea of it being a meta slasher and being aware of these horror movies creates the perfect cover for that, because it makes fun of and acknowledges those tropes and cliches within the movie itself. Of course, I don't like the second one quite as much as I like the first, but it's still a really good movie and a great slasher sequel. Number 3 on my list is The Craft, which I know most of you guys are familiar with already. It follows a newcomer to a Catholic high school who falls in with a trio of outcast teenagers who practice witchcraft. So this is one of only 3 like early influences for me, which eventually led to me following a Wiccan religion and practicing witchcraft myself. It does have a special place in my heart. That's why it's on this list and so high up on the list. And maybe that sounds a little scary, but I promise Nancy was not the one I identified with most in this movie. But speaking of Nancy and the other 3 girls, Rochelle, Bonnie, and Sarah, I feel like there's something that you can relate to and at least one of those girls in the movie, if not something from all of them, which is really, really important to me, to be able to connect to the characters. And I think that's part of why this movie has done so well and gained the following that it has. Number 2 on this list for me is actually Sleepy Hollow, which of course is a take on The Legend of Sleepy Hollow by Washington Irving. This is one of the first horror movies your girl ever saw, and I can't tell you for sure, but it might be the first movie that's actually like labeled as a horror movie that I saw. Not the first movie that ever scared me, but the first one that's actually a horror movie. So it's got a very, very special place in my heart. I love everything about this movie from the characters, especially the imagery. The imagery is everything. The lighting, the color palette, the setting, just everything about it gives me the warm fuzzies. Possibly my favorite Tim Burton movie. It might be. It might be. And no need for fanfare. You know my number one is Scream. Not just my favorite of the 90s, but my favorite of all time. I've talked about how much I love this movie many, many times, so I won't do it here. You guys know. You just know. Maybe you didn't. If you didn't know that, like maybe you were just like newer, or you just happened to only watch videos where I haven't talked about how much I love Scream, let me know in the comments. Let me know if this was the first time you're hearing this, because that would be kind of cool to see how many of you actually were surprised at that. So of course, I want to know what your top 10, top 5, top whatever number you want 90s horror movies are in the comments section. And if you guys like these type of videos, give them a thumbs up to let me know, and I can do more top 10s for all sorts of different decades. All the other decades, I mean. That was a weird sentence to say, all sorts of different decades. Before I go, I want to say thank you to my creepy patron peeps for their support of my channel. Thank you guys so much. If you want to find out the perks of being a creepy patron peep yourself, you can follow that link in the description. If you're new here, or if you've been lurking, subscribe, become a creepy peep today. I post videos Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Thank you for listening to me talk and watching this video. I'll talk to you guys very, very soon. Until then, stay strange. Bye.